Today's episode is sponsored by Connie Herzenberg. Hello and welcome back to Film Pro Productivity and Success, the podcast that helps film professionals, filmmakers and other creative people to live a more focused, effective and happy life. My name is Carter Ferguson and this is episode 83, 5 Vital Lessons We Can Learn from the Stoics. Today I came across a post by Scott Myers, who is a must-follow on Twitter with the account at Go Into The Story. If you love screenwriting, then you need to get following him, by the way. But anyway, he put out a quote on Twitter by Kevin Coyne, which reads as follows. I have a mantra in class. Clear thinking leads to clear writing, which leads, most importantly, to clear understanding. And that quote is particularly relevant here, as I'd recorded this episode already. I'd finalised it, in fact, and it was uploaded and ready to go out. But when I recorded that first version, I was a little bit dissatisfied somewhere in my mind. This was going to be the last episode of Season 5. It's now become the first episode of Season 6. But as the season ran out, I was like, I don't think that episode's very good. I was maybe a little bit unclear in my head about what I was trying to say, either that maybe, or I was trying to be too clever. I just wasn't very happy with it. But that quote, clear thinking leads to clear writing, which leads most importantly to clear understanding, made me go, I'm going to listen to that again. And when I did, I thought I can do better. And here we are. But all of this has got nothing really to do with today's topic of Stoicism, which I'll get onto in a moment. But I wanted to do this topic justice, so I'm giving it another go. Without clear thinking, the subject of today's show could have become academic. But like the subject of the New Year shows, Stoicism is action-oriented, where actions speak louder than words. I first called this show as well, Why Stoicism is Like a Superpower, which was nice. And it kind of made sense. I mean, it did make sense because it is a powerful thing if you can embrace it. But with a somewhat clearer message, today's show is now called 5 Vital Lessons that we can learn from the Stoics. We're more often frightened than hurt, and we may suffer more in imagination than in reality. Seneca, unquote. Stoicism is a school of philosophy that hails from ancient Greece and Rome in the early parts of the 3rd century BC. It was a school that taught a particular way of living, and its principal focus was how to live a virtuous life, to maximise happiness, and to reduce negative emotions. Stoicism these days, though, it's often either unknown or misunderstood. To the average person, this kind of vibrant, action-orientated, paradigm-shifting way of living has become shorthand for emotionlessness, and Stoic philosophy on the surface sounds like a thing no one would want to really learn about, let alone urgently need in the course of daily life and work. But the reality is that Stoicism is a valuable tool for anyone engaged in the pursuit of self-mastery, of perseverance, and in the end of wisdom. It's something we can use to live a great life and not just some dry academic concept. It was my brother Robin that first mentioned Stoicism to me, and after he talked about it, I hit Wikipedia and discovered that Stoics think that the best indication of an individual's philosophy is not what the person said, but how the person behaved. And this worked well with my own outlook and values, etc., as I hold very much in the idiom that actions speak louder than words. This realisation has come about through years of working in the creative industries and meeting a never-ending line of people who talk about making films or doing great things or treating others with respect and kindness, but never actually do the things that they say. Maybe about 5% of the people on social media and in life are bullshitters, though, and they seem to be ever present. And if you get caught up with them, they'll do nothing but take from you for very little in return. And I will have to do a future episode on them, I think, as they are a tremendous hindrance to productivity. In the meantime, look at my episodes on time wasters, toxic people, and the scams one as well for a few thoughts on that subject right now. People's primary concern at the time when Stoicism came about was to avoid living an unfortunate life. So they were more likely to order their thoughts, decisions, and behaviours to promote increased life satisfaction than most people would do these days. I'd add too that one of the most important things to keep in mind about that time is that unlike today, individuals didn't automatically assume that they would achieve happiness by attaining money, prestige, or beautiful things. They just wanted to understand how they could have an excellent soul. Stoicism has got many vital lessons within it, but for today I'm just going to tackle 5 of them which I've found to be effective. These lessons can be applied to our lives and in our creative works. The first lesson I want to bring to you is that Stoic people consciously try not to complain about what they lack. I'll say that again. Stoic people consciously try not to complain about what they lack. Instead, they guide their awareness towards gratitude for what they do have. Seneca expressed this when he wrote, "No person has the power to have everything they want, but it is in their power not to want what they don't have and to cheerfully put to good use what they do have." Wanting what we don't have is a very modern affliction. It's that niggling feeling that we should have more, we should travel more, do more, and it's particularly prevalent in creatives, especially filmmakers, as we are constantly being marketed to buy the next new bit of kit, the next light, the next camera, the next bit of software, the next plug-in, whatever it is. Even today, I got offered on some pop-up on Instagram or something like this, a small rig, lightweight matte box. I don't need a matte box. I've not made that many films since last April when I decided to stop filmmaking for a while. But don't worry, folks, I'm going to do another episode which is about rediscovering passion, because I have started slowly, thanks I have to say to Indie Film Hustle and Alex Ferrari's contact with me, started doing some work in films again of my own. I've been working in film all the time as a fight guy, as a stunt guy, apart from the 6 months I had off due to COVID. But during that time, I have got back into it, thanks partly to Alex, as I say, and also to my friend Thomas Sandfield, who was the DOP on the Dead End films that I worked on. I have got, to some extent, back into film again, and I am kind of actively looking at it, which is probably how Instagram knew that I was someone to market to, because obviously they're all sharing information. But I'm on a way big tangent here. On the subject, actually, of social media, you really only have to open up Instagram or Twitter these days to trigger a midlife crisis and wonder what the hell you're doing with yourself when so many other people seem to be having a perfect life. Do you get that? When you yourself seem to be struggling to get ahead. Well, that's because you're comparing your behind-the-scenes dirt and all view of your life with other people's highlight reel of their life, what they choose to share. Don't get caught up emotionally in social media, and certainly don't believe everything you read on the internet. I know I'm bastardising someone else's quote here about highlight reels, but it's a very good point that was made. We're living in what Katie Cowan of Creative Boom calls generation perfection, and it's putting unnecessary pressure on all of us. I believe that when you work in the creative industries, it can feel much worse because so much of what we do is on display as well. If you're a filmmaker, as I said a second ago, don't get bogged down waiting for the latest bit of kit and spend days and months pining over it at the cost of your current projects. It does nothing but harm. And you can look to my episode called Shoot With What You've Got for more information on this. But that was consciously try not to complain about what you lack. The next lesson we have is we don't control events, but we can control how we react to them. Say that again. We don't control events, but we can control how we react to them. One of the great Stoics, Epictetus, said, The chief task in life is simply this: to identify and separate matters so that I can see clearly to myself which are externals not under my control and which have to do with the choices I actually control. Where then do I look for good and evil? Not to the uncontrollable externals, but within myself, to the choices that are my own. Marcus Aurelius wrote something similar. He said, external things are not the problem. It's your assessment of them, which you can erase right now. They believe that everything that happens in your life can be controlled by your own mind to be good or bad, and once you understand this, you can also take back the power. Take control of your own destiny, as I might say at the end of every episode. In effect, what I'm saying is that you need to accept that disruptions cannot be avoided. Tranquility can never be reached by avoiding or blocking out distractions or horrible events. The way to get to the tranquil place is through your choices and judgments about those events and situations. The Stoics might say this: in good and bad times, we have a choice. This is captured very nicely in a quote from Eckhart Tolle, who said, all it takes is a simple choice, a simple decision. No matter what happens, I will create no more pain for myself. I will create no more problems, unquote. We all come from different backgrounds and will go through major highs and painstaking lows in life. Through all of these different circumstances, though, we have a choice. It's that freedom of choice that will ensure you don't waste your life away thinking about stuff you can't control. You can train your brain to move away from the negative and into a more positive space. Adopting a positive mindset is a subject for another show, perhaps, but I've dipped into it a few times already in the past. Look to my season 1 show about the inner critic, or my more recent one on affirmations. Starting the day with a positive affirmation is no bad thing when trying to rewire your brain into a positive mindset, but you can also focus on the good things, however small. You can find humour in bad situations, turn your failures into lessons. Talked about that in the last couple of shows. You can turn negative self-talk into positive self-talk. Find and surround yourself with positive friends, mentors, and co-workers. And just as importantly, get rid of the ones that bring you down. Finally, I'd say focus on the now and don't get hung up on the stuff that's went wrong in the past. That was vital lesson number 2. We don't control events, but we can control how we react to them. Number 3 on this list is that you must disrupt yourself. The Stoics teach us that doing things the way they've always been done will only lead you to be disrupted by someone or something that changes with the environment. Either that, or you'll keep getting the same results if you keep doing the same things. I did a whole episode on this topic earlier this season. It was number 70, Learning to Adapt, so I won't go into too much detail on this. But again, it's all caught up with one of the key elements of this podcast, taking control of your destiny, taking control of your life. I say it at the end of every episode. If you're operating solely out of habit, it means that you've stopped thinking and are mindlessly drifting through your life and your career and your relationships, etc. It means you're not in control. You need to take on that high-level state of thinking that I talk about right in episode 1 and assess what has been working for you and what has not. If you've been doing the same things for a long time and getting nowhere fast, then you need to stop and try something new. You need to disrupt yourself. It's essential that you hear this and that you act on it. It's too easy to keep on cruising. Jay Samit, author of Disrupt You, Master Personal Transformation, Seize Opportunity and Thrive in the Era of Endless Innovation, says that self-disruption is akin to undergoing major surgery, but you are the one holding the scalpel, unquote. So get out your scalpels, folks, and start making changes If, that is, you genuinely want to find success in your life and work. If you don't want success, just keep on rolling. Just keep on seeing what happens. Don't plan ahead. Be influenced by others. Or take the lesson of the Stoics here and disrupt yourself. I have an advanced degree in procrastination and another one in paranoia. Joanne Harris, unquote. The next principle is that being paranoid and fearful will destroy you. The antidote to fear and paranoia is self-control. So you must learn to control your impulses. If you become fearful that others will sabotage your success and you don't remain in control over these fearful thoughts, you'll lose sight of reality. These fearful thoughts will cause you to project your fears onto other people, and they'll give you exactly what you fear. In simple terms, fear is a self-fulfilling prophecy. What you put out comes right back at you. Ryan Holiday says that we should focus on the moment, not on the monsters that may or may not be up ahead. So if paranoia has you in its grip, remember this and deal with it, as being paranoid and fearful will destroy you. I'll end today's list with number 5. You become what you give your attention to. Epictetus said this. He said, you become what you give your attention to. If you yourself don't choose what thoughts and images you expose yourself to, someone else will, and their motives might not be the highest. So the first part of this, the main heading here on this one, is you become what you give your attention to. And others have said this too. I see it often in the productivity world, but Brian Tracy's version comes to mind as the most succinct. He said, you become what you think about most often. Whether you think mostly negative thoughts or positive thoughts will determine your default response to any situation. The more you practice negative thinking, the more likely you are to see the world as negative. The same is true if you choose to practice nothing. The second point I take from what Epictetus wrote is, if you yourself don't choose what thoughts and images you expose yourself to, someone else will, and their motives may not be the highest. And in short, that means don't let the insignificant control your vision. The insignificant could be what you read in the papers or online or hear in gossip or watch on random YouTube videos or get caught up in things like unnecessary drama, which is a surefire killer of productivity and success. Be wary of the opinions of others that have no worth, as well as there is this endless succession of people lining up, as I said before, to give you their opinion, even if it's not been asked for, even if they have no understanding of what you're doing, even if they have no skills, and even if they have no experience. There are people out there that will give you their opinions and try to skew your own thinking on things and do it their way for no other reason than because it makes them feel powerful, perhaps. So stop giving power to those that continually try to predetermine your reality and take that power back. If you think like everyone else, you'll eventually become like everyone else. If you do the same things your peers do, you will have the same things your peers have. To have different is to do different. To do different is to think different. And to think different is to believe different. This is all of your choosing, so choose carefully and intentionally. Ignore the trivial many to focus on the essential few. Attention equals focus. Focus requires energy. Be selective. Say no. Take control of your life and maintain your uniqueness. I really 100% believe this now, that your uniqueness, especially if you are an artist or a creative person, is your most valuable asset. don't let it get watered down, hijacked, or diverted by any of the things or the people that I have talked about here. The soul becomes dyed with the colour of its thoughts. Marcus Aurelius, unquote. So the Stoic principles that I've shared with you today are not just interesting ideas to consider and then forget. They're meant to be practiced every day of one's life. And if embraced, Stoicism will offer an immediate, useful and practical way to find peace and improve your strengths of character. Virtue, not virtue signalling, I hasten to add, but virtue, or ethics if you prefer, behaviour showing high moral standards, is the primary concern of the Stoic. More important even than wealth or health, excellence of character to the Stoic is the highest good. Your call to action this week is to take one or two of the principles I have talked about today and apply them to your life in whatever way that you find most effective. Take action. That is Stoic philosophy. And the 5 vital lessons that I covered were: 1, consciously try not to complain about what you lack. 2, we don't control events, but we can control how we react to them. 3, you must disrupt yourself. 4, being paranoid and fearful will destroy you. And 5, you become what you give your attention to. Although this has become the first episode of Season 6, it was meant to be the final episode of Season 5. As it didn't seem appropriate to do this at the end of the last show, though, I would now like to give a big thank you to all of the Season 5 sponsors. That's to Connie, who sponsored today's show, to Jacqueline Hauer for bringing us Part 1, and Lorna Hamilton for bringing us Part 2 of 10 Ways to Motivate and Inspire Others. Also, the YouTube channel Geekified, who sponsored episode 78, Harnessing the Labour Illusion. Kelly Stark for episode 77, Pride and Arrogance. Christina Littleson's Arts on Air show on Pulse 98.4 FM for sponsoring Part 1, and the anonymous contributor who sponsored in the name of the Outlander fans for Part 2 of How to Win Friends and Influence People. Big thanks to 6 Feet from the Spotlight, who backed episode 74, Why We Must Get Comfortable Being Uncomfortable. A really important episode, that one. Not that the others aren't, but I think that's a key one out of the season. Lonnie Shaw, good old Lonnie for, not that old, good old Lonnie for bringing us episode 73, SWOT Analysis. Nicole from the Bronx, who backed episode 72, What Are Smart Goals? And finally, my good friend Petra, who brought us the update episode number 69, episode 70, Learning to Adapt, and episode 71, Mission Creep. If you'd like to sponsor a show yourself, then please get in touch via the sponsorship page on the official website, filmproproductivity.com. The money that I raise is used for promotional reasons and to some extent keep the website up, etc. Although I think I'm covered on the website to at least kind of something like September this year, so there's no great rush on that one. But yeah, I am offering prizes now, as you can tell, and I'm trying anything I can to keep the show's profile up. So I do spend money on trying to make that happen. And don't forget that you can access all of the other shows on the Indie Film Hustle Podcast Network via the ifhpodcastnetwork.com website, and there are some terrific shows there to absorb. Seriously, there's about 20 shows. The point is that Alex Ferrari has curated these shows. These aren't just random, low-end podcasts. These are the best filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts that are available in podcast land. And I'm still listening to the Bulletproof Screenwriting podcast when I walk the dog, which is one of Alex's own shows, and it really is incredible. Some of the guests he's got are fantastic, and it's one of those shows where sometimes I want to get home and listen to it again just to start writing notes. There's so much amazing information in it. But thank you again, all of you, for joining me here today and investing in yourself once again. If you enjoy the show, and would like to help it to reach a wider audience and keep on going, I'd very much be grateful if you'd take the time to leave a review or on whatever app that you use to listen to your podcast on. It really makes a difference to podcast listener numbers, and it does also bump the show up in the rankings at the same time. Today I covered 5 Stoic principles, but there are many more. If it interested you, then do a little bit of research yourself, and I recommend a book called The Daily Stoic as a quick dipper. And let me just jump in here with a little insert recorded on the 7th of January 2021, because this show was recorded, I think I initially recorded it about 3 months ago, and then I didn't like it, as I said at the start of the show, and I re-recorded this version that you've just heard prior to me deciding not to release that many shows this year. I had intended on releasing shows every two weeks, and I decided not to. And if you want to hear all my reasons for that, then listen to, I think, last week's episode or the week before's episode to get some information about my thinking on all of this. But I just listened to it again, I have to say, and it was a blooming good episode. I really like Stoicism. It's something I've had to use even in the last few days, in fact, because my car had some problems just before Christmas, and given that I didn't work for 6 months a year, I didn't have that much money to buy a better car, so I ended up buying a car that was a bit older than I would have liked to, and I've had nothing but trouble since I bought it. The business that sold me it, the second-hand car dealer, absolutely lived up to the stereotype, and he's been a real slippery customer, and it's really only through the sort of stoicism headspace that I've been able to keep calm and keep focused throughout it. And I don't know if I mentioned it within the show, but one of the stoicism things that I like to keep in mind is that you have to acknowledge that difficult and bad things do occur in the world, and that there are difficult people out there. And if you acknowledge that as a general kind of rule, when you meet these people, you are not surprised to meet them, and therefore when they mess up all your plans, when they create chaos in your life, you can still keep some sort of control of your life because you're not surprised that someone's done this to you. And there's a lot of really not very nice people out there. I have to say, in COVID land, as we're still in COVID land at the moment, I think there's a lot of scams going on. There's a lot of scammers. That's why I did the scam episode a few months ago, in fact. It's because I was aware that scamming was happening. And there's scams just all around at the moment, so keep your radar up for that sort of dodginess. And if you want to hear more about scams, I think it was towards the end of the previous season to last, or to that one there, and it's the scams episode. You'll find it, go and look for it. But yeah, I'm prepping for a year of filmmaking, and the reason I'm doing that is because I did do my best year yet strategy. How many of you did it? Be honest now. Did you do it? How did you tackle it? I know at least 2 people did it. That's how much I know at the moment, because they've been in contact with me about it and they completed it. But if you didn't finish your strategy, if you got into it and it got difficult and you gave up on it, it's not too late to go back and complete it. It isn't easy, but it is well worth your time. My brother was saying, my brother Robin, who I mentioned in this episode, actually, he said that he found it frightening. And it is, I get what he's saying, it is frightening to ask yourself some of the questions that are raised and to be honest with yourself with the answers that are coming up. But unless you've got that honesty, unless you've got that kind of brutality, you know, looking at where you are with things, you will find it difficult to get out of them. I found it really difficult. I found it really brutal. It took me probably 4 sessions over 4 days, with a couple of the sessions only being about an hour. I never quite got into it. I was getting distracted by other things. The car was one of the things that distracted me. But eventually I completed it on the 4th day with a really focused, detailed session, which probably took me a good 3 hours, just that last session. But I finished all of my plan, and I have a plan going into the year ahead. Remember, your best year doesn't have to start on the 1st of January. It can start when you want it to start. So go back to those New Year episodes, those specials, and have a listen. And if you didn't complete, go for it. It'll make a big difference. My major focus for the year is going to be filmmaking, which is quite a big thing for me because it's been over a year and a half since Not quite since I made a film. I did do some editing and I did shoot a couple of things, but since I worked on my own creative projects, and that is pretty much what the year ahead has got for me. And I can only do that because of the choices I made about this podcast. And I'm off social media until probably the end of February, I think, because I achieve so much when I'm not on social media that it's very, very significant. And it's important to me now that I move forward in leaps and bounds in what I'm planning to do, which is, as I say, my own creative projects. But I feel that I've babbled on long enough. There will be more shows this year. I just don't know exactly when. Please, please, please feel free to send me a message and ask questions via the website, via filmproproductivity.com's contact page, and I will try and answer those questions as they come up. I won't necessarily do a mailbag episode. I might just do this question's come in and do a quick 5 or 7 or 10 minute episode where I'm answering that question, and that'll keep some content going out for you. And yeah, good luck. Have a great 2021. Please leave a review if you can. I think I'm about to, I'm editing into this. I think I'm about to ask you to leave me a review. But leave a review for the show. Keep listening to it. Keep suggesting that people listen to it. It's got, I think, 86 episodes now, including this one. And there's a lot of great content out there. On social media at the moment as well, I'm pushing out content which is 10 of the best shows. These are the best rated shows, the best number of downloads, and the best reactions I've had. They're going out on social media at the moment. So check out for them on Facebook at Film Pro Productivity, and on Twitter at Film Pro Prod Pod, and on my personal Instagram account, which is at fight_director. They're scheduled to go out, so I'm not physically there, putting out these posts. I use the Buffer, the free Buffer service, which allows me to put 10 posts out over the month, which is the month of January. So that's where they're coming from. So I won't interact with you on social media. If you need to talk to me, get me on the website. Catch you later, guys. I'm going to let the rest of this episode play out. It might be a bit repetitive. You might have heard me say it all there, but such is life. But let me end today with some more words from Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoics, who said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Now take control of your own destiny. Keep on shooting, and join me next time on Film Pro Productivity and Success. The music that you can hear right now is Adventures by Ehumitsu. You can view the show notes for this episode on the official website, only in full on the official website at filmproproductivity.com. And why not listen to the official, follow the official Twitter account at FilmProProdPod, or on Facebook at FilmProProductivity. And check out the rest of the shows on the Indie Film Hustle Podcast Network at ifhpodcastnetwork.com. Please support the show by subscribing, spreading the word, or leaving an awesome review.